And welcome into another edition of the Sick Podcast with Draft Vogel. I'm John Vogel, your host. We got a special guest in the background waiting on us. Another quarterback. We've been getting a few of those this year. But first, Shane, he's our producer in the studio. I'm really excited about this interview. I think it's going to be a really good one. Good energy. Good guy overall. Shane, get us started.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Draft Vogel.
With the first pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. The first pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. With the first pick in the 2023 NFL Draft.
The sickest NFL Draft show. It's gonna be sick.
And, of course, the Sick Podcast is brought to you by DraftKings. Be sure that you use the DraftKings code SICKSPORTS after you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 on any bet. This says NFL on the banner, but we're kind of switching it up. It's kind of anything. We got hockey. We got March Madness coming up. If you're an NBA guy, get into that as well. And then when we get closer to draft, there's actually some props already up there. You can bet on NFL draft where players are going to get drafted and when the first quarterback will be off the board and that kind of stuff. So you could get involved with that. Stay tuned right here because this might be a guy that you want to be betting on coming up next. But with DraftKings, where the crown is yours, be sure that you check that out. Our guest, it's just me and him today. Jarvis and Gam are out, so let's go ahead and bring in John Rys Plumlee, the quarterback via Ole Miss to UCF. And John, I'm really happy to have you. How are you doing tonight, dude?
Man, good to be here. Glad to be here. Excited to be talking to you.
Absolutely, man. I'm excited to talk to you too because I want to get into how you started playing football. I know that you're a multi-sport athlete. Gam definitely has a question for you that he can't be here tonight, but he sent it in to make sure that gets asked. But let's just start from the beginning about you, about football, your journey with it, sports in general, because obviously you're a two-sport athlete at UCF, I believe at Ole Miss too, right?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. So when did you kind of make the decision that, hey, I want to give sports a try, and how did you start playing sports? How did you start playing football?
Yeah. Wow. As long as I can remember, I was doing something with some kind of football, baseball, basketball, soccer ball, doing something all the time. That was kind of, I've always, from a young age, have been super, super, ultra, uber competitive. And some sort of ball was my way of outlet for me, right? I love to compete. And so I found myself playing some sort of ball. And so my parents let me do it all when I was a kid: football, baseball, basketball, soccer, you name it. I was doing it. I was competing in it, having fun doing it. And so I loved it from a very young age. Started in baseball first because you were allowed to do that first. Then as I grew older, in second grade, I was allowed to start playing tackle football. And so that's when I started the journey in football. Played quarterback and middle linebacker. That's what I did.
Totally correlating positions.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about both sides of the ball. We were doing it. Hitting heads on defense and staying away from on offense. But, And then into high school, I narrowed it down to football, baseball, and was blessed enough in my recruiting process where I had the opportunity to do both and to play quarterback, which was my dream from an early age. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to play football and baseball at the highest level. People would ask me, hey, what are you going to do when you get older? And I said, I want to be in the MLB and the NFL. I'm going to be in both of them, right? And so I got to play at the highest level for a long time. And now I'm excited to be pursuing my dream of playing in the NFL. And it's exciting. I told you before we started, it's an exciting time in my life. And excited to be living it.
So I don't know anything about baseball, so that's why I have to ask you, right?
Sure.
Like I know the very basics. Called some baseball games, like high school type stuff. But what are you looking at MLB in the future too, or is that something you're just keeping off the table for now? Like you're just focused on the NFL?
I've hung up the baseball cleats. For as long as far as like baseball draft kind of goes, guys usually make their money when they're younger. So either coming out of high school or early college, because in baseball you have to get into whoever's system. So you have to go through their minor league system to get up to eventually be in the show. But obviously that takes a little time, a couple of years most of the time. So the younger, the better for baseball. I'm a little bit young. I'm a little bit old on the baseball side. So I think my money is in football. And so I'm excited to be, I guess, chasing the money and chasing the dream as well.
So before we kind of talk about college, this is what Gam wanted me to ask you, which is being a dual or multi-sport athlete. Do you think that helps athletes in general or football players be successful?
I think it helped me. I feel like it did help me, but I think there is an argument to be made that, hey, I think John Rys might have been a better football player if John Rys only played football and that's all that he focused on, or if John Rys just played baseball. I'm sure I would have been a better baseball player if that's all that I focused on. But it helped me because I was always what I loved about it was I was always kind of in season, right? As soon as the last football game happened, I was, hey, we're starting spring baseball here. It's right around the corner. We got a couple weeks before we're into the season. And then right after baseball, which ends in the summer, hey, we're into summer workouts right into the fall in fall camp. And so for me, it was just kind of always kept me sharp, kind of always kept me looking forward to the next thing. But I enjoyed it just because it never got old. Like it was always fresh, right? There was always you be around the guys and, the same guys every day in football. And then all of a sudden you go to a new locker room and you're around completely set of different guys. And so kept it fresh, kept it fun. And it's something that I know that not a lot of people have gotten to done. But I'm really glad that I did.
And it was kind of funny too, because I think it was last year, there's a social media video that dropped where you were literally leaving a baseball game and going to the spring scrimmage, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, UCF. I remember that kind of going viral. Like you want to talk about commitment to two different sports, man. John Rys had it.
That was craziness. That was really the first time. I've only been through 2 spring footballs in my life, and both of them happened at UCF. And I think I made some big strides in the spring, and it was really good for me. But I also was, balancing football, baseball. So we would go football in the mornings, 7 a.m. meetings. You go meetings again, position meetings. You practice. Then after that, it's either some sort of training room. You're doing PT or whatever. Get lunch. I would usually get a to-go box and go right after baseball. And then it was baseball in the afternoon. So we're immediately going into early work, cage work, field work. After that, if you want to do a little bit after practice, and then back to the house at, 5, 6, doing some homework. I had online classes, which made it a little easy for me because I could kind of do it when I had the time. And so for me, that was in the afternoons after everything. And then I would jam it in and then rinse and repeat, get up and do it again. And it sounds busy. It sounds like a crazy, crazy, hectic schedule. Like, how did you make it work? But I had a bunch of people around me that made sure that it worked, right? I had Coach Malzahn kind of moving spring practices around on my behalf. Like it was extremely fortunate to be able to do that. And then Coach Lovelady over at baseball, making sure I had adequate time to be over at football as well. And so both of those head coaches really made it almost jump through hoops to make sure that it happened for me, which was really awesome.
Let's get into your college career a little bit, because I was telling you before we started recording that I've been watching you really since Alabama, but people have been talking about you since LSU as a freshman.
Yeah.
You come out on the scene, you throw for 950 yards and run for over 1,000 in your first year. You started 8 games at Ole Miss, kind of came in, I think, for an injury. Talk about what that experience was. First off, going to the SEC, having the opportunity to start as a freshman and then put up 200 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns against the eventual national champions.
Yeah. Man, it was fun. I remember early on, I'm not playing the first couple of games and I'm upset. It's a competitor in me. And we weren't doing well either as a team. And so I really felt like I could contribute. I really felt like I could make a difference. But again, I'm a freshman. I felt like opportunity wasn't coming my way. And then all of a sudden, we second down, we take a sack, starter gets a fractured rib. I go in there 3rd and 11, first play, QB draw up the middle, 47. And then next play we score. That was versus Cal. I think they were ranked 24th or 23rd at the time. And then from then on out, again, the next week it was Alabama. That was my first start ever. And so really, really cool just to be like, hey, have to pinch yourself kind of moment. Like, hey, my first start playing college.
Alabama Crimson Tide and Nick Saban.
Yeah. Versus Nick Saban. Right. Like, this is crazy. But man, it was so much fun. Like, once you do it, like, it always kind of took me a play. Like, hey, after I got tackled one time, I was like, man, this is still football. Like, this is the game that I've played since second grade. This is the game I've loved forever. I'm still playing football. And so, but I felt my freshman year, like, just didn't know a lot of football. I was just athletic. I was putting my athleticism on display, but I didn't know a ton about playing the quarterback position. Didn't know a ton of football knowledge and scheme. And so in the years to come, I eventually learned that. And now I've been in college for 5 years now, and I've been in, close to 5 offenses. So I felt like I know a lot of ball now. I like to tell people, if I knew then what I know now, it would have been, I think, a lot different. But man, what a crazy first year. It was so much fun.
It's an interesting point that you bring up too, because it's almost as if you knew then what you knew now, would you have become the player that you are now?
I think I would have got there. Yeah. But I think that was a part of my growth too. It was a piece of me that I needed to develop, and I did develop. But yeah, that's a good question. I've never been asked that question before. I think I would have eventually got there. Maybe quicker in some aspects, a little bit slower in other aspects, but I think I would have got there.
Because I think we're kind of referencing the same thing here, where you end up, right after that year, you end up making more of a move to wide receiver. And you played a couple years there, mostly out of the slot. Did that help you kind of understand offense better, looking at it from a different angle, a different lens than you really had ever in your career?
For me, it was after that freshman year, I had a coaching change, had Kiffin and Jeff Lebby come in. I'm super excited. And so I played behind Matt. They ended up naming Matt Corral the starter. Ended up playing behind Matt for a year. And for me, that was like, dang, man, I really wanted to be the guy in that offense, because I love that offense that we were running. I felt like I could be really a good player in that offense as well. And so when I didn't have that opportunity, it really stunk. But for me, it was kind of how do you get 1% better every day? And for me, that was my big leaping point. Hey, I'm going to learn ball from these guys that know a ton of football. Obviously, Jeff Lebby is head coach at Mississippi State now. Kiffin is still rocking out at Ole Miss. Both unbelievable offensive minds. So really got to soak up a lot of knowledge off of them. So played behind him that year. In the bowl game, they asked me to play receiver. Was a little bit hesitant. I did it. It was fun. And then the next year, they wanted me to move to receiver full time, which I did. But man, I love playing quarterback. And so after that year, I knew I had to go. I felt like my opportunity had come and gone there at Ole Miss. And so got in the portal, got a call from a familiar voice, and Coach Malzahn had a relationship prior. Coming out of high school, he recruited me. And so he said, hey, I have an opportunity. And for me, that's all I've ever wanted was, hey, give me a fair shot. You give me an opportunity. At that point, it's up to me. The ball's in my court. And so I make a trip to Orlando, was there for 2 years, man. And again, another great offensive mind that I got to learn from with Coach Chip Lindsey there, quarterback coach first year, and then Darren Henshaw the second year. Got to learn a lot of football.
So talking about the difference going from a Matt Luke type offense to Lane Kiffin, Jeff Lebby to Malzahn.
Yeah.
What was the biggest shift that you really saw during that, the transition to those different places outside of, coaches and the place and looking at it strictly from a schematic standpoint? Yeah.
So, obviously everybody's got to have, everybody has a little bit different of a coaching style, right? So my first year was Rich Rodriguez. He was crazy. He was awesome. Never a dull moment with him. Super appreciative of him. Then the second year was Coach Lebby. And then Kiffin was in those meetings all the time. Obviously, third year the same. Fourth year with Malzahn, but with Coach Chip Lindsey. And then the last year with Coach Henshaw. I think the changes that I saw was freshman year was really, really run heavy because I was good at it. We had some really good running backs and Snoop Connor and Jerry on Ely, Scotty Phillips as well, and a really good offensive lineman. We were good at running the ball, and that's what we did. Second year with Levy and Kiffin, early on it was a lot of option game, Baylor, RG3 type stuff. That was really, really cool for me. I liked that option game a ton in the run game, a lot of RPOs. And then when we switched more over to Kiffin's offense, you saw a lot more vertically stretching the field with shots, high-low and defenders on front sides, back sides, having the option game with that Baylor stuff. And then the transition to Malzahn was back to the run game being a big, big piece with vertical shots to go off of that. And then last year was heavy RPO as well. We got really, really good at it with those guys. And we went actually back and did some of the option game stuff because Levy came from UCF. They were still running a lot of his option game stuff. I had obviously been in the offense, knew it. And so when I came in, fit like a glove, picked up right where we left off. And so little integrating of some offenses, right? Just like everybody does, a little piece here from somebody, a little piece here from somebody else. But when you get to see a lot of different ones, it's kind of cool how to see how you can fit them together to make a pretty powerful offense.
No, and I think that Malzahn is well, first off, Kiffin is proven, like, the people that he brings in, the coaches and stuff, they're awesome with the way that they can put together an offense and really. I think there were a lot of questions when they went to the SEC about whether they were going to hold up. Same thing with, Heupel at Tennessee. And those offenses have kind of flipped college football on its head up to this point. So then you get a chance to go to the American, move up with the school to the Big 12. One of the things that was a really big talking point, you going from 22 to 23, and like Jim Nagy at the Senior Bowl was talking about it, and other quarterbacks, coaches, and people, the quarterback experts, quote unquote, on social media and in the media in general, we're talking about the jump that you were making as a passer from 22 to 23. And so I want to ask you about that specifically, but not just that jump, but because there was another jump from when you were pre-injury to post-injury during the 23 season. What was that? What can you attribute that to? And, what was it? Just something as a matter of you were just clicking? Was it a new coach? What was that? What caused that change?
I think the jump from 22 to 23, I think I attribute that to the spring ball piece of that year. I told you earlier, when in college or in high school, in football season, I was a football player. And after football season, I would go play baseball in the spring and wouldn't pick up a football. So I was half a year on football, half a year on baseball. That year from 22 to 23, I got to participate in spring ball. So I got to practice football year round that year. And so I think that was a big, big jumping piece for me because throwing the baseball and throwing the football is kind of two different strokes, in my opinion, a little bit different. There's some similarities, some things that are going to carry over, but you do some things differently. And so when you do one for half a year and then one for half a year, there's a kind of a transition period in the middle where you're kind of figuring it out again, right? How kind of relearning it almost. In that year, I got to throw year round, and so there wasn't as big of a hey, I've got to relearn this, or I have to get this movement pattern down again. It was easy to just pick up and let it rip. The jump from the injury obviously took a piece of my game away. I feel as though I'm one of the most dangerous quarterbacks in the nation with my legs. I think I can extend and make plays.
I mean, yeah, you've proven that, and let's just go back to the freshman year. Just go back. It's proven.
And so that kind of piece got taken away, especially early coming back. When I came back, I obviously couldn't move a ton, and every week I kind of got a little bit better, a little bit more mobile. But I had to show a different piece of my game. And so we started scheming in that way, scheming for us to make plays in the run game with RPOs. So not with me. It wasn't run reads for me anymore. It was more of run pass. And then in the shot game, we had guys a little bit more complexity on the front side of stuff, checking out of stuff to make sure that we were in the look that we wanted to, and then progressions that I got to take a little bit more time with because I was injured. Kind of got to play the coach role a little bit when I got injured, and so kind of got to evaluate. Hey, you need to do this a little bit better. Kind of coaching my guy that was playing, Timmy McLean, who did a great job for us when I was out. But hey, Timmy, when you're working through this progression, make sure you bring your feet and your eyes together, right? Just little things that I've learned through all the way through college. And in a way, I was almost coaching myself. I was talking myself back through that process. And so when I got back to being healthy enough to play, I just got right back in the saddle. There didn't have to be any time of me like, man, I remember this play, but I'm not really fresh on it. I kind of stayed sharp on everything because I knew that it was just a certain amount of time before I was going to be back on the field. And I think that attributes, again, just to that piece being taken away from my game. I had to show a different piece of my game and hurt defenses in a different way than I had before in the past. And so I was glad I got to show it. I think I was going to show it a little bit more if I wouldn't have got hurt, obviously, hindsight being 2020, but it's part of my journey. And I was not happy to go through it, but looking back, a little bit of adversity isn't too bad all the time.
No, and that's the other thing too is, everything happens for a reason. We hear that all the time about everything, right? Everything happens for a reason. But for me, the one thing that I kind of look at as if you can call it a positive with your injury, is the fact that you had to throw more with, through that. You couldn't rely on your athletic ability to get you out of all these sticky things. Because the notes, the report, as I'm writing up, going through the tape, watching the games, it changes after that a little bit, because I like one of the games I like to go back to with you is from the 23 years, Oklahoma State, right?
Sure.
I mean, Oklahoma was a great game too, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But Oklahoma State, it was just like everything was clicking. You were hitting the deep ball. They were beautifully, they were perfect to Javon, to all those guys out there. You were killing it. And it also allowed me to see that, hey, this guy, he can work through the pocket. He knows how to sit in there. I'm not worried so much about, like me as a scout, I'm going to look at all the little details. I'm not worried as much about his size, because I see he's got the anticipation, he's got the time, and he's throwing these darts all over the place. And then I think that Oklahoma State game, if you were playing that, let's say you never got hurt, you're 90, 85%, whatever you're going to be at that point in the season.
Yeah.
And you're relying on that athletic ability. I don't think I'm going to see that in that game and then the rest throughout the season. And neither are scouts, because it changes the way that you have to play. So I think that honestly helped you a tremendous amount, because it's not just guys seeing you throw in shorts, the Manning Passing Academy, or, at practice wearing the freaking QR codes on the back of your jerseys, like.
And another piece that I think I had to learn as well is I kind of get into a competitive mode, like when I get in, game time, where it's like I'm taking on defenders when sometimes I shouldn't, right? Like I'm trying to break tackles when sometimes I should just go down. And when I got injured, it kind of forced me to say, hey, if you can't get any more, go down. Give yourself up when there's 2 or 3 people around you. So another, I guess, tough lesson that I had to learn during that period of time. And so, again, a learning piece that I got during that time.
I mean, it's a good habit to build, because if you got TJ Watt or Myles Garrett closing on you, I don't think you want to. I don't think you want that one, man. You're topping everything.
No.
Anyways, awesome. So one of the things too that I got to ask about is, the combine list came out the other day.
Yeah.
After, and your name was not on it. So
Sure.
Being a quote unquote snub from the combine, how do you feel about that? Why do you think you were snubbed?
Yeah. For me, ever since, coming out of high school, being in college, being at Ole Miss, I've always been doubted. I've always been, I kind of felt as though an underdog a little bit. People have kind of overlooked me, I feel like, my whole life when it comes to playing quarterback. But I think that makes it easy for me to carry a chip on my shoulder. It makes it really, really easy for me to do that. The reason why I couldn't tell you, right? I'm not in those guys' heads. If I had to guess, maybe it was because I was injured. I didn't get to showcase a ton because of the games that I missed. But at the end of the day, I'm looking for opportunity, right? So whether that be, I think of Sean Clifford last year. He didn't get a combine invite. Now he's on the Packers and has been rocking and rolling with those guys. I just need an opportunity like Sean did, right? You don't need something that you don't need all 32 to fall in love with you. You just need one. And I've always preached and told guys that you grind and you grind and you grind and you grind and hope for an opportunity. And then once you get an opportunity, it's up to you to do what to do with it. And so I continue to grind, right? I continue to do what I have my whole life, been overlooked, been called too short, been called to play a different position.
You heard the hands aren't big enough yet?
Of course, all of those things, right? All of those things. I continue to grind, right? In hopes for one day an opportunity. And I know that I'm going to get it. I know I'm going to get a shot somewhere. And I'm with that shot. I'm looking to raise some eyebrows.
Now, another thing that you've kind of got this interesting this year as you get ready for the draft is the Big 12 Pro Day.
Yeah.
And it's the first time ever that a whole conference is bringing all their guys in, and they're all going to do it the same place in Dallas or Frisco. So how are you preparing for that? You know, is there a way that you could prepare for something that's really never happened before?
Yeah. Kind of a little bit like guinea pigs right now. Like some guys don't know what to expect. Other guys, they're hearing one thing, hearing a different thing from somebody else. So from what I understand right now is it's going to kind of be put on like the combine, similar to it. So the same kind of format that they do at the combine is something that we should expect at the Pro Day. So kind of preparing for that. In order to do that, I'm training actually in Frisco with Exos that's there, with Brent and those guys there. They've been unbelievable, training 40, how to get bigger, faster, stronger. Obviously, all of those things. PT for my knee, getting it all the way back healthy is a big piece. Finally there. It took, from the season of the injury point to now, but we're finally there. And then quarterback-wise, I'm training with Jeff Christensen. He's in short, Patrick Mahomes, quarterback coaches Trey Lance, Aiden O'Connell. He's been unbelievable helping me. Already have learned a ton, and I've only been with him for a couple of months, and so he's helped me a ton. I'm excited to showcase what he has showed me, and so been training hard like I have my whole life. But I feel like now I have a lot of guys that have seen the blueprint of what it is that you're supposed to be doing, what it's supposed to look like, and so they're kind of guiding me in that direction.
One of the things that I always like to ask quarterbacks is, because I know that especially guys that have been in a bunch of different systems, is, hey, what's your favorite concept to run? So
for me this year, this was like our catch-all this year. And this is a Baylor RG3 Classic. 2x2 set, we called it dice. It could be dice right, dice left, indicating where the tight end's going to be. He was usually to the boundary for us. Then it would be flash, red or black buzz. So all that is just the back, flashing sides and protection. 3-man slide if it's even, obviously 4-man slide if it's odd. Then inside guys had a 12-yard option route. So they could either run a go, they could run a fall out straight back down the stem, they can run a post, or they can run wrap roll digs. And then on the outside, you have 15-yard fallouts right back to stem. Unless you get cover 2, you can hole shot them. They can continue going forward. What's the progression look like? Too high, I'm picking the tightest halfway defender. We call it tightest alley defender. Playing inside out to the back. I forgot, back has an option route right there over the ball. One high, we're playing opposite the safety. Play away from them, manipulate, play away, inside out to the back. And for us, that was our third down go-to this year, and we got really, really good at running it. It's really about your relationship that you got with your guys, especially your option runner guys. So for us, it was Kobe this year. We let Javon do it a lot. We let Xavier Townsend do it a lot. And so when you kind of we're both seeing the same thing, and hey, I know what Kobe's going to do when it looks like this. He's going to wrap this guy. We're going to hit it right behind his ear. When you get on the same page like that, it was really, really good for us.
No, that's interesting that you bring that up too, because somebody sent me this statistic. And that's why I was like, as you're talking about it, going, this sounds familiar about you. Regarding third downs this year, you were like the third most effective passer on 3rd and 6+ in the country.
Let's go. That's
Which,
good.
Like 130.6 passer rating and, like crazy stuff like that. So that's interesting because you're talking about this play. It's a cover-all, catch-all. That would explain it. And if you can run it as well as you're talking about it, you're going to get the first down. So that makes 100%. A lot of sense now.
100%. You don't have to have a home run, right? Like those guys, we tell them to play what they see, play fast and play what they see. And so if they think they can take the middle, take the middle. If it's not looking good and everybody's zoned out, come right back down the stem. You'll catch a ball. We'll get 12 yards. We'll go from there. And so
awesome.
Tell those guys to play fast and play what they see. And they did. They got really good at it.
Last question that I got for you, because I don't want to take too much of your time up now because we're right on the 30-minute mark now. Is obviously you're wearing a cross. So I want to ask you about your faith. Faith is a huge thing for me. What is faith to you, and how has that played into your football journey up to this point?
It's a big part of who I am. I was raised in an amazing family. I was raised in the church, Southern Baptist in South Mississippi. It's a big part of who I am. I accepted Christ at an early age, and it has been a big, big piece in my life. As I grow physically, I also try to grow in faith as well. And so for me, as it pertains to football, faith keeps me solid is what I like to say, is what I like to call it. When you play football and you pursue it as hard as I do, or as hard as guys that I'm sure that you have talked to, is as hard as we pursue it, sometimes it's easy for us to get caught up and say, hey, I'm John Rys, the quarterback, or John Rys, the baseball player, right? Because we pursue it so hard. We put so much of our time into it. But if you do that, you find yourself riding this roller coaster of like, hey, man, I'm playing really good right now. And then all of a sudden, as one does playing quarterback, you're either the hero or everybody hates you. You ride this roller coaster, right? There's a bunch of highs and lows that comes with playing the position and in playing football in general. And for me, when my identity is in something that's more than this world, right? Higher than football, it keeps me solid. It keeps me not even keel, but keeping me from riding these just crazy up and downs that this game provides, right? It's why people love it. But sometimes it can be really detrimental to you if you continue to ride this crazy roller coaster. And so I try not to be John Rys, the quarterback. I try to be John Rys, the follower of Christ, before I'm anything else. And then it goes John Rys, the son, John Rys, the brother, and then John Rys, the quarterback. As much as I pursue being a quarterback and I want to be the best quarterback in the world, I want to be really, really competitive in my faith as well. And so that's just a little bit about my faith. That's how I see it. And it's been a big part of who I am.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really good to hear, dude. One of my favorite players, really my favorite player of all time, was Phillip Rivers. And, I got an opportunity to listen to him talk back in, I was like 13. And it was he said something that changed the way that I approached life, which was, hey, everything at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's faith, it's family, it's football. And it's got to be in that order. And that's how it rolls. So, dude, awesome. Good. It was great to get a chance to sit down and chat with you, get to know you a little bit, kind of hear your process, understand it, get a glimpse of how you see the game and how you kind of play, how you prepare. Couldn't be more excited for you as we go into, the rest of this draft process. Hey, we're in draft season now, man. It's getting started.
Honest, baby. Let's go.
So let's do it. So again, appreciate you taking the time to join us today on, the Sick Network. And man, we're rooting for you the whole rest of the way. Go light them up. Go prove that you're one of them top 32 quarterbacks. I think you can be. Absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thanks for having me on. God bless, guys. I appreciate your time.
Shane, let's get out of here.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Draft Vogel on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.